So thanks, Mike. And yeah, thanks for inviting me back to sort of talk to the group. How many people have we got in on the meeting?
A dozen at the moment.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, as Mike said, I probably talk for something like, I've got 10 slides and it'll probably be about 30 minutes. If people want to ask questions as I go through, that's totally fine. There's time for chatting at the end, any questions that people have got. And also, Mike, you've got my email address. If people want to email me directly after the meeting or after people have watched it on YouTube, then that's also totally fine. So just any questions that people have got. So yeah, the last time I talked to the group was November 2021. And I'd not long started at the council. I think I've been in post since the March. So everything was pretty new. I had worked in consultancy for the dark side, putting together ecological reports for developers to get planning permission. And so moving to local authority was a big change for me. And I think because of the financial situation that we're in at the moment as well, we're in a financial crisis. We haven't declared bankruptcy yet, but it might be on the cards. I feel pretty lucky to have my job actually, which has been made permanent as of the 1st of March this 2024. So yeah, that's me. I thought it might be useful to just explain a little bit about our team because it's changed quite a lot since I started at the council. So I work with Lindsay McCulloch, who is the natural environment team manager, and she's also the planning ecologist. So Lindsay is the ecologist who reviews all of the planning applications that come in. She looks at the ecology reports to see whether she agrees with, what's been said in them, basically. So that's her role at the moment, which may change. We've also now got a team of 6 rangers. Well, we've got funding for 6 rangers. It's dropped down to 4, but we've got in theory, there's 2 rangers on the east side of the city. So that's over on Pear Tree Green side of the city. James and Ian. And then we've got 2 for the central area of the city, Dawn and another person. And then we've got 2 for the west side of the city, which is where I am. So they're primarily tasked with doing practical habitat management work. So they're on the tools. So during the winter time, they do a lot of their habitat management, so outside of the nesting season. And then during the spring and the summertime, they are tasked with doing events and public engagement, working with residents. So that's a new team, which is really great to have. We've also got Sarah Chersick, who is our community campaigns officer. She works with community payback people on Wednesdays, I think it is, doing habitat management work. And she's got a team of volunteers that she works with on a Tuesday. So that's her role. We've also got 2 sustainability officers as well, who've just about to join the team. They are tasked with trying to get Southampton to reach its net zero goal by 2035. So they've got quite a big job on their hands. We've also got 2 allotment officers. So they look after all of the allotments across the city. There's myself, the ecologist. We're also hoping to get enough funding for another ecologist as well, who will be focusing on biodiversity net gain, which you may have heard about. And our team is part of the city services department. So that's really, really varied. All of the people who look after our parks and open spaces, people who empty the bins. There's a landscape team, people who look after our parks, our play parks. So it's quite a sort of a mixture of people. There's also our tree officers in the team. And we've got arboriculturalists as well, who actually go out and do the practical sort of tree work. So that's pretty much our team at the moment. It's looking like it might change a little bit, but not totally sure about that yet. It's all dependent on funding. And we've just had a new chief exec at the council as well. I don't know. I think he comes very much from a finance background, unsurprisingly. So it's sort of a bit of wait and see what happens. So I think when I talked back in November 2021, I introduced the sort of Southampton's Green City Plan, which is the council's response to the climate emergency. And there's various parts to the Green City Plan. There's the sustainable energy and carbon reduction element, cleaning the air in the city, improving air quality, resources, waste and water management, sustainable travel, and the bit that I was brought in to deliver was the natural environment section, which is the bit that I'm most interested in, I suppose, and get most excited about as an ecologist. So, you can go onto the Southampton City Council website and have a look at the Green City Plan. It breaks down exactly what the council is trying to achieve and by when. So as part of the Green City Plan, we have recently adopted, January, so very, very recently, our green infrastructure strategy. Again, this is available on the Southampton City Council website. It went out to consultation last year. We had quite a lot of feedback from people. So that was formally adopted at a cabinet meeting in January. Again, that was a totally new experience for me, not knowing how things work at the council. So you have to jump through quite a few hoops, has to go through internal consultation first to get all of the various officers in the council to input into what you're writing. Then it goes out to external consultation, obviously, and you invite residents in the city to feedback on the strategy and what they think of it. Then you take all of that information on board and come up with your final strategy. So that has taken me, pretty much 3 years actually, since I started. Off and on, I've been working on this. So it was quite a big thing to get it adopted in January. I'm currently working on a delivery plan. So that's essentially, how are we going to implement the strategy in the council? Who's going to do what? What funding do we need? So how are we going to go about it? And as part of that, you may have heard of the Southampton Green Grid. So there's a London, all London green grid, but no other city has actually, to my knowledge, has got a green grid. And basically what it is it's a very strategic map at the moment. So it's very, very zoomed out, and it shows the city, all of the existing green links that we've got in the city. And importantly, the gaps that we've got that we want to fill with green infrastructure, be that green roofs, green walls, green facades, planters, all sorts of things, as long as it's green vegetation. And then the idea is that we're going to have ward level green infrastructure maps. So rather than this strategic green grid map that doesn't show a huge amount of detail, I think on the next slide I've got the green grid map. We want to zoom in and produce a series of maps at ward level which have a lot more detail on them, where those gaps are and how we plan to fill them. So that's just a summary of the green infrastructure strategy. So as part of the green infrastructure strategy, we've got this, as I say, this green grid map. This has been included in the local plan review. So the council are committed to this work. So you can see that existing links are in dark green. So obviously we've got the common. Can you see my cursor? Maybe not.
Yep.
Yeah. So obviously we've got green links going through the common. Shirley High Street, which is where I live, we've got that showing as blue. Shirley High Street, along with Portswood High Street, are pretty devoid of vegetation at the moment. There's a few trees scattered here and there, but very, very little. So the idea is that we want to try and come up with a plan to green these links which are currently grey. There's very, very, very little vegetation. And then the red links are partial links. So we've got, maybe some trees, maybe a bit of hedgerow or scrub, but not very much. So we want to strengthen those. So that's the green grid project. So as I say, at the moment, we've got this strategic plan, and as and when money becomes available, we want to produce ward level maps to show more detail and what projects people might be able to get involved in greening their local neighbourhoods. It's obviously not just the responsibility of the council to try and green the city. Everyone will have to, do their bit, really. Everyone that's got that can affect the land. So people, businesses, hospitals, schools, universities, private residents, everyone that can do something. We're gonna try and sort of all work together and try and green the city as much as we possibly can to make it better for wildlife and better for people. We, as part of the consultation for the Green Infrastructure Strategy, we worked with the Hampshire and Isle of Wight Wildlife Trust. We've got a Wilder project officer in place, which you may have heard of her, Jill Doubleday. So she's currently working with Southampton City Council as a Wilder officer for the city, working with residents on various projects to try and improve their local spaces. We're also working with Southampton National Park City. Christelle Blunden, I think her name is. So she's instrumental in leading that, and she's recently taken someone on, Ray Turpin, part-time. So we're working closely with them as well. The idea is that they want to try and get Southampton designated as a national park city by 2025. So we've also done consultations for which was called Waste of Space and the Green Grid, and that's come up with loads of great ideas that people had for greening the city. So I've got a list. I went through everyone's consultation responses, and I've got a really, really long list of projects. And we're also pulling together, I've put that grant ready project list. So because the council is in such a dire situation in terms of its finances and hasn't got any money, we've realised that we're going to have to rely on grants quite a lot. I've just applied for a Veolia Environmental Trust grant, which we were successful in getting the money, so that's great. Dawn, our lead ranger, has just worked with a friends group in Portswood Rec for another grant application, which we're waiting to hear on. So I think in terms of getting money for greening projects, the council's going to have to rely quite heavily on going down the grant application route to fund these, because we just simply haven't got, you know, the finances to do it in-house. Next slide. So this might be the slide, this might be the piece of work that maybe people on this meeting are sort of a bit more excited about. So this is as well as a green infrastructure strategy, I've also written a biodiversity strategy, which I was writing at the same time as the GI strategy. So again, I've been working on it for the last 3 years since I've been in post. Finally had it adopted again in January at the same cabinet meeting, which is brilliant news. It's, you know, quite a lot of work to get it that far. Again, it went through internal consultation, external consultation, and took, you know, all the comments on board. So we've finally got our biodiversity strategy now, which sets out what the council wants to achieve in terms of improving the city specifically for wildlife to make it better for biodiversity. And the delivery plan, which I haven't started writing it yet, but it's going to be an updated Southampton Biodiversity Action Plan. So we've got one in place at the moment, which is pretty old and not overly specific. So Winchester City Council have recently updated their Biodiversity Action Plan. And it's great. It's really, really clear. It lists all of the habitats that they want to focus on improving, all of the species within the city, species and species groups within the city that they want to focus on improving populations of. So the idea is that we're going to sort of, it's going to be a similar format to that. So I should be working on that with various other people in the council. We'll obviously put it out to consultation as well to get people's views on it. So that's a really exciting piece of work that I can't wait to get working on that. So in terms of the strategies, that's enough of that. So in terms of what work I've been doing as over the last 3 years as well, since my last talk back in 2021. This slide is actually from my last talk. It's so in terms of work that I've been doing, I've been training up various staff in the council to be as vigilant as possible when they're going about their work, to make sure that we are adhering to wildlife legislation, but also that we're doing the proper checks for things like bats before we do tree work, look out for hedgehogs before and reptiles and amphibians before we do vegetation clearance. So we're still on the list of heroes on the Hedgehog Preservation Society website, which is great. I update the training each year. So for the last 2 weeks in February, I'm going to be rolling out some more wildlife awareness training for all of the relevant teams in the council. And that's not just the teams who are out and about trimming vegetation or clearing gardens of void properties that the council owns, but also anyone that's involved in working on buildings and structures as well. So in my spare time, I work do some work for Hampshire Bat Group. And I'm a bat carer. So I realised that when I joined the council that staff hadn't sort of had that training, and I was keen to make sure that everyone was sort of, you know, working to the right standards, basically, and had the knowledge that they needed. So when I do the training, I go around to the various teams and think about the work that they're carrying out and cover the wildlife legislation side of things, and what they need to be aware of in terms of the type of work that they're doing. So obviously there's no point in me talking to, I don't know, the trees team about amphibians or reptiles necessarily, but they do need to know about nesting birds and bats. Likewise, people who are doing work on our buildings, renovating properties, they need to know about nesting birds and bats predominantly. People who are clearing gardens of void properties need to know about, you know, various species of wildlife. So it's just thinking about the work that the teams are doing and making sure that that wildlife awareness training is, you know, is really sort of pertinent to what they need to know. Otherwise, they would I'd probably see their eyes glazing over and they go, oh, this isn't relevant to us. So I just try and make it as relevant as possible. Coming from a sort of an ecological background, my specialism, I suppose, is protected species legislation and protected habitats. So it's yeah, that's a piece of work that I, you know, wanted to introduce to the council. What else? So another bit of work that I've been doing. This isn't all the work I've been doing, but I've just sort of, you know, picked certain bits out. So we're for all of our sort of more formal parks in the city. So Riverside Park, for example, over on the east, Mansell Park over on the west, Shirley Pond, central parks in the city. We're trying to get them all to a sort of a recognised standard and get the Green Flag Award for them. So that means that we have to write green flag management plans for all of those parks. And we have to make sure that they reach a certain standard, that they're safe, that they're clean, that they have the right infrastructure for, you know, to be as accessible as possible to, you know, all people. And ideally they need to have friends groups as well. Not necessarily, but yeah, ideally they do we need to show that they're sort of, you know, supported by local people. So that's another piece of work that I help out on. We've obviously got our meadows across the city. Some of them are sown with wildflower seed. Some of them have been turfed, which is quite costly, but outside the civic centre, because it's such a, you know, a central place and it's so much on view. We've got wildflower turf that's been put down there, which is obviously managed in a particular way. We've also got our more sort of natural meadows, if you like, that is just grassland, where we're trying to affect the mowing regime. We're trying to reduce it and just mow it at the end of the summer. And we've got a machine, a cut and collect machine called a Profi Hopper, where the rangers go out, and at the end of the summer, when everything's finished flowering, the idea is that all of these meadows will be cut, and over time the nutrients in the soil will reduce and we'll get more wildflowers, which is obviously better for invertebrates. There's a photo here of it. It almost looks tropical. When I put this on the slide, I thought, gosh, that could be a Broad actually, but this is skunk cabbage, which I'd never actually come across, but it's massive. And we've got quite a problem with invasive species across the city: Japanese knotweed, Himalayan balsam, skunk cabbage, cherry laurel, you name it. We've got, yeah, it's quite a problem. So the rangers are now setting about mapping invasive species across the city and treating those invasive species as well. We need to think about what to do about parakeets, actually, which are also on the rise. Not entirely sure what impact they have on our sort of native wildlife, but obviously they're, you know, not a natural species to have in a city, so they will have an impact of some sort. Bottom right that's James, one of our new rangers, who is at the boating lake on the common with, I don't know who that is, I think that might be Dawn, the lead ranger. And they have, after draining the boating lake down, so once the great crested newts have moved out of it, the idea is that the water is then drained out of the boating lake, and the sticklebacks, which have become quite prolific, are removed. So that's been pretty successful. So every year, the aim is to drain down the boating lake, remove the sticklebacks, which are obviously not good for the great crested newt population, and then plug it back up, ready for when great crested newts want to come back into the pond to breed. So that work's just been done, and the water, I'm pretty sure, is back in there now, because newts are most definitely moving to their breeding ponds now. And then the top right hand photograph, that's in terms of the work that the rangers do. This is over at Chesil Beach, where we've got a real problem of not only nurdles, those plastic nurdles, but also there's so much rubbish that gets washed up on the shoreline. So we go out with volunteers and do litter picking. This is just one of the sites that we do litter picking at. Unfortunately, littering across the city is another massive problem in terms of sort of, you know, urban ecology. So there's lots of different projects that we're getting involved in, both myself, volunteers, the ranger team, community payback, you know, Sarah Chersick with her volunteers. In terms of sort of species specific projects, unfortunately, for the first 2 years I started at the council, I had a very, very small budget, which I spent as wisely as I possibly could. Unfortunately, I don't have any budget now to sort of focus on species specific projects, but we did get Swift boxes installed on schools, and also residents could apply for a free Swift box. I've managed to get Swift nesting boxes installed at the golf course cottages, at the outside sports centre, working with Hampshire Swift Society. We've also put replacement bat roost features into the golf course cottages as well, because we had to do that work under a bat licence. This photograph is just really to sort of mention again the meadow work that we're doing to try and improve the grasslands across the city for invertebrates. Phil Bird very kindly did some training for some volunteers year before last. Oh no, it was last summer and the summer before. So we've got, we had a team of volunteers that went out 2 consecutive years to survey as many of the sites that we possibly could. I've got all of the data now in a spreadsheet. I just need to find time to add that onto Southampton's mapping system, which is called SOMAP. So we can think about whether we need to amend the mowing regime of those grasslands, depending on what species, plant species we've got. I mentioned about bats. So yeah, that's a picture of a brown long-eared that I was looking after. So yeah, do bat caring in my spare time, but also if anyone in the city finds a bat at any time of year, there's a hotline that people can call, part of the Bat Conservation Trust. Great Crested Newts, we've been doing two consecutive seasons worth of surveys for Great Crested Newts focused at the Common, because the reason why the Common's a triple SI is for its Great Crested Newt population, which unfortunately is declining. So we want to try and find out why that's happening. I think it's various reasons, but we've been monitoring the Great Crested Newt population across the city. We also want to try and improve the ponds across the city for amphibians in general. Oh, Mike, I can't see that photo because I can just see me. What's that a photograph of on the top right?
It's a small rodent. Is it a dormouse?
Ah, yes, it's a dormouse. Okay, so another protected species that we've got in the city, dormice. I was very keen, because I've got my dormouse license, I was very keen to set up a dormouse monitoring site. And we've set one up at Southampton Crematorium. And I've done 3 seasons worth of monitoring and found a dormouse nest in October last year. So it's right on the edge of Southampton city boundary, but I'm taking that as a win. That's my dormouse record. So that's brilliant. So now I need to try and improve the grounds at the crematorium, if I possibly can, to improve the site for dormice. I need to submit that record. Actually, I haven't done that yet, but and then bottom right again, I can't see. Oh, is that a hedgehog nest box?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, again, when I had some budget, I got Men's Shed in Shirley to make some hedgehog nest boxes up for us. So those have been given away to schools. As long as the school is willing to create gaps in their perimeter fence, if they haven't already got gaps, and to relax the mowing in certain areas of the grounds, if they can, to stop using pesticides and slug pellets. And as long as they're not adjacent to a really busy road, then schools across the city have been applying for hedgehog nest boxes, and I've delivered a couple, and our rangers are going to deliver the rest, and delivering a sort of a wildlife talk as well, just to explain what schools can do at a very, very local level to improve their grounds for wildlife, be it sticking up bat boxes and swift boxes or bird boxes on their buildings, to improving their grounds for wildlife. So I think that's oh yeah, elephant. Gosh, yeah, the elephant hawk moth. So one of our rangers is very, very keen on moths and butterflies. So she started to do butterfly transects, which she's going to continue with as part of butterfly conservation. She'll be continuing with those surveys on the west side of the city. And then James, our ranger on the east side of the city, is also keen on taking part in those surveys as well. So he's also going to be doing butterfly transects. Claire is also our west ranger. She's also very keen on moths and does moth trapping. So it's not the sort of thing that's very easy to do in the city, because obviously you have to leave the moth trap out overnight, and it's very, very bright, and yeah, so there are only certain places that we're going to be able to do it. But the Hawthorns grounds is pretty perfect, and it's very secure. So that's just a few examples of sort of species specific projects, if you like, that I've been focusing on. One thing that I haven't mentioned actually is, are people aware of the fact that we've got this Environment Act that came into place, Environment Act 2021, and as part of that, we've got an enhanced biodiversity duty as a local authority. That's the main reason why my role has been made permanent. We've not only, I think the wording in the legislation was that local authorities have to have a regard for conserving and enhancing biodiversity. Well, the wording's changed now, and we have to make sure that we are conserving and enhancing biodiversity, and we have to report back to central government every 5 years to show how biodiversity is improving. So it's very much a strengthened duty which has come out of the Environment Act. It's the same act that biodiversity net gain in relation to development has come about. Every development now going forward needs to result in an increase in biodiversity by no less than 10%. So that's another big change. And obviously the council are very, very keen for biodiversity net gain to actually be delivered in the city. There is an opportunity for developers to actually buy credits from outside of the local authority where their development is, but we're very, very keen to keep that money obviously in the council boundary. And also as part of the Environment Act, we've got there's a piece of work called Local Nature Recovery Strategies, which Hampshire County Council are leading on. So it's this huge map of the county, trying to come up with a way of linking all of our green spaces together. So yeah, Local Nature Recovery Strategy. Southampton are sort of, obviously attending those meetings. We want to make sure that even though we're a city and, if there's lots of gaps in our green infrastructure, but it's really important that we get all of that mapped and again, fill gaps in. How am I doing for time, Mike?
You're fine. Absolutely fine.
Okay. I hope I haven't been rambling too much. I'm nearly at the end. And you can ask as many questions as you want to.
We've already got a few questions and comments in the chat.
Okay. So in terms of sort of how people can get involved, obviously we're just a council. We haven't got any money. Unfortunately, staff have been let go of. And I don't know, what the future plans are, unfortunately. So there's a lot of work to be done, and we need the help of as many people as we possibly can. And I thought, with it being sort of, Southampton Natural History Society, if anyone wants to get involved in trying to improve the city wildlife, then
it's such a deep sleep. Oh my God.
Oh,
I was in a deep sleep, love.
I can hear someone, Mike.
It's all right. I'll just mute. Okay, done.
Then yeah, if we need all the help that we can get. So there's an email address I put up there, greenvolunteers@southampton.gov.uk. That's the best email address for people to use if people want to get involved in monitor species surveys, which I'm going to have to set up systematic, repeatable surveys to best practice guidelines to inform our biodiversity action plan. So if anyone wants to get involved in surveys or practical conservation work, then yeah, please feel free to email in. We obviously want people to try and improve where they live for wildlife as much as they possibly can, and I'm sure that members of the Southampton Natural History Society probably already do that, but it's sort of, I suppose, inspiring others as well and passing on that passion as much as you can to try and get other people to do the same. So I had Swift boxes put up on my house, and I gently encouraged, shall we say, my neighbours and other people in the street to also have Swift boxes put up on their houses. So it's just a case of, I said, spreading the word, really. And then the other way that people can help is we've got various friends groups across the city. We need more friends groups for green spaces and parks, or supporting existing friends groups. And then grant applications. I'm pulling a list together of all of the various grants that we can apply for. But there's quite a lot of money to be had in grants, and I think that's, as I say, that's the way to go in terms of the council, to get money in for projects to improve, you know, places. I think that the one that I was successful in recently obtaining was to improve Cutbush Pond over on the east side of the city. It's only 50,000, but you know, it's a start. The idea is to improve the pond there, and get in some nice interpretation signage, some waymarking signs, new platform, gabion platform, dipping platform to use for educational purposes. So every bit helps. What else? I think that might be it. It is. So just, yeah, thank you for listening to me. I hope it was relatively interesting. And yeah, if anyone wants to ask any questions, feel free. Hopefully I can answer them. And if I can't, then I can try and find the answers to questions for you.
Brilliant. Do you want to stop sharing the screen for a...
Yeah. Okay. First question, is the waste of space map public? Yes, it is. I'm pretty sure that if you go onto the Hampshire and Isle of Wight Wildlife Trust website and you put, well, you could probably Google Hampshire and Isle of Wight Wildlife Trust waste of space, and it comes up, there's a map there which you can zoom in on for Southampton, because the waste of space campaign was, gosh, I don't know whether it was England wide or UK wide, but there was the one specifically for Southampton. Yes, you can definitely get, you can zoom in. I don't know whether you can still add a peg or not, you know, add a comment, but it's definitely public. If you want some baby trees to plant, I have more than I know what to do with. Was overly keen and now have a baby oak forest in the small back garden of a terraced house. Well, the problem, the only thing with Southampton is that most of the tree planting that needs to take place is along our roads. So, and it's a pretty expensive thing to do, but I think if you've got a lot of trees, especially oaks, I can let Dawn Bannatyne, our lead ranger, know and see whether there's any opportunity of taking those off your hands and finding homes for them. Lot of chatter on the Facebook about the draining of the boating lake. It would be good to make sure public know the rationale of the work. That's, yeah, really good comment. We should probably put, when we're doing that, we probably need to put some signage up to say why we're doing it. I suppose the only risk with that is that because it's such a public place, I can imagine that people would probably pick the signs up and chuck them in the boating lake. We have a real problem with, you know, issues like that, but I will pass that message on to Dawn. Mike, is there a way of saving these comments? Or...
Yeah, I'll send them to you separately.
Okay,
so,
brilliant.
And I'll link you up with the people who've made them with their email addresses. So
okay, fab. Yeah, that's great. What are you planning on doing mammal tracking at Miller's Pond using tunnels?
So that's saying we're planning on doing that at
Oh,
Miller's
you're
Pond.
planning on doing it. Oh,
Yeah.
right.
So we've got a BioBlitz coming up in March. I'll be trying to think of
Okay.
different activities for different species. And one of the
okay.
easy tasks for volunteers is just to get them to kind of put the tunnels in and teach them about that sort of stuff. So you mentioned about the dormouse. I'm sure we're not going to get dormice, but
No, probably not. But yeah, I think, I mean, really, it's those sort of initiatives, those sort of surveys that we need to try and replicate. You know, we need to try and repeat it as much as we possibly can across the city, and make sure that they're sort of systematic and they're repeatable as well. But yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that our ranger team I'm gonna train them up on certain survey techniques, and then they can obviously share that information with volunteers. I mean, it'd be great to just get like a huge team of volunteers together to just survey as much as we possibly can, to get as much data as we can to know what's happening in the city. We've got a bit of a lack of information at the moment, unfortunately.
So one of the projects I was trying to get started at Sholing was reaching out to Butterfly Trust and other organisations, and they come down for a day and just train people, get some free training on how to do butterfly transects, and then I'd learn, because I don't know anything, so I'd learn on the job doing it as well, and then they can go out and do it everywhere else. So you've already mentioned about grants and stuff like that. So we applied to the Public Education Research Unit at the University of Southampton for it, but it wasn't quite aligned to what they wanted. So maybe next year we can do that. But yeah, but I guess we should probably talk about it. But
yeah.
Sam, can I say something here about?
Hi, Felicity. Yes, of course. Hello, nice to see you.
We do mammal trapping on Peartree Green.
I know you do.
And I'm hoping to do another one this year. There's one part we haven't actually done. We've done about 3, and we know where we've got lovely colonies of yellow-necked mice, shrew. Oh, sorry, we've got vole. We haven't found shrew, fun enough. We've got vole, and we've got mice, and we've got yellow-necked mice. And I want to do the bottom area. So I'll let you know when we're doing it, because I borrow the traps from the Wildlife Trust. We do trapping. I know you can put the tunnels. We have a problem, just as you said, with litter and a certain amount of vandalism. So what we have to do is we have to put the traps late at night, tuck them well under the undergrowth.
Yeah.
Go down first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
But we are doing the actual trapping of the mammals on the green.
Oh, fantastic. Actually, one thing that I was going to mention that I forgot to mention was in terms of recording, Hampshire Biodiversity Information Centre, obviously, they have all of the species and habitat data for, well, the whole of Hampshire. Their preferred recording platform, apparently, is iRecord.
That's what I use.
Is it? Ah, brilliant.
Yeah, I put on, and I know Phil Budd does too, because I've discussed it with him.
Yeah,
I did an iRecord course so I could do it.
Ah, okay, brilliant. Yeah, apparently.
So I make sure.
Yeah, that's their.
If I'm not sure, I go to Phil or someone who's. If I'm not sure I've quite identified something.
Yeah.
I go to someone to get it, but you have to get it verified.
Yes.
But we do record.
Ah, brilliant. Okay.
And we do the HBIC, so that's on there as well.
Okay, brilliant.
Okay.
And then obviously, when I come to sort of write our Southampton Biodiversity Action Plan, all of the records that everyone's been collating will be at HBIC. So hummingbird, hawk moth, yeah. I get them in my garden every summer, which is brilliant. I love them. What are you doing? Oh, what are you going to do to the poor parakeets? There's no plan to do anything with them. It was just an example of another sort of, non-native invasive species. But I mean, I haven't researched it personally, but I do wonder, how they impact natural, our natural wildlife. I suppose that they pinch nesting sites. But there's no plan to do anything with them. Don't worry. Not at the moment.
There is a general license to control them but you have to identify that they're being a pest. And I think
Yeah, and a lot of people like them, you see.
there's a lot of dispute about whether they are a pest species or not a pest species. I can remember the first time we saw them was, I don't know, 30, 40 years ago, when there was a big colony up at Heathrow on one of the reservoirs, and it was a place you used to go to see them. Now, of course, you can walk out your front door and see them everywhere.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, parakeets have good PR. Yeah, I mean, a
Just-
lot of people like them, and you know, and I suppose the balance is that as a council, we obviously recognise the you know, sort of value of people going out into their green spaces, and if people want to go and see parakeets, and it gets them out of the house and into the fresh air and walking, then please don't exterminate the muntjacs either. No, there's no plan to do that. Where are the muntjacs in Southampton?
everywhere.
Are they? They're not on Shirley High Street, Mike.
They will be.
Unfortunately, I live in probably one of the most nature depleted areas of the city.
Hmm.
Oh,
You-
Belmore entrance. Okay.
You'll be pleased to know that the Natural History Society is now putting all its records through iRecord as well.
Ah, brilliant.
So that, Phil is not so sure that's brilliant, because it means when he does the annual report, he's now got thousands upon thousands of Blue In records to sift through each year, rather than the handful he used to have. But so at least that's a way of concentrating the records to make it easier for people like yourself that have got a wider viewpoint to look at.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're also involved in the odd bioblitz, like we'll get involved with the Miller's Pond and Pear Tree Green bioblitzes and so on. And I think the point that was made about the training of volunteers in these areas, you know, if the council can facilitate the training of a wider group of people, whether it's for things like butterfly transects or whether it's for how to make hoverfly lagoons or whatever, then that all helps. One of the questions I was going to ask was in terms of the monitoring of habitat. Is there any way that individuals can get access to? Again, it may be something that City Council can provide if it's, or might get people access to, is to the air quality monitoring. And the reason I asked this in particular is going to be very parochial now. We've been monitoring invertebrates in our garden since lockdown, and we're now up to 1,000 species or thereabouts in terms of regularly found.
Yeah.
But the one thing that has absolutely crashed, is moths. And we're just wondering whether that is a direct impact of a change in the local environment, very local environment, because of new businesses moved into the area. And we're just wondering whether there's any opportunity ever to just do a very specific air quality monitoring at a very local level. I know you're much more interested in what's happening across the city, with the ships in the docks and all the rest of it. But I don't know how to investigate further the fact that the reason our moths have crashed isn't anything to do with the neon lights around us, and there's plenty of those.
That's almost like a university project, isn't it?
Maybe, yeah.
I mean, obviously we've got our air quality monitoring points across the city, but there's no
Portable ones.
No. That sounds like a very good thesis idea for a university project, Mike.
Yeah. Okay.
Pop your idea over to me, because again, as part of what the Rangers are doing, they're getting you know, rallying more volunteers together. And I know that they've got a few students at the moment from Southampton Uni. And the idea is that, you know, we sort of encourage that more and get, you know, as many volunteers as possible, really, that the Rangers can manage. Whether they're first, second, third year students or MSc students. Yeah, sounds like a good project idea. But interesting. I mean, you think it might be more of an air quality related thing rather than a light pollution thing?
Yeah, I think so, because the light pollution has been there
That
you know,
hasn't changed.
all the time. That's not
Yeah.
changed.
Yeah.
But the air, and I can't think what else it is, because it's you know, the other you know, well, I just can't think what it is. But suddenly, you know, we've not, because we're a city centre location, we've not got a massive moth list, but it's something like 250 species of moth. But in the last year, it would be, you know, 24 species.
Wow.
It's just completely crashed.
Gosh.
And I've got no explanation for that. But on the plus side, we do have a tremendous, very small population of Bloxworth snout. So if anyone wants to see a Bloxworth snout that's never seen one before, we've got about half a dozen that inhabit our garden.
That's, yeah. Can you email me about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, Lindsay would be very interested to hear about that, actually. And less moths, less bats as well. So just has a knock-on effect. Don't know. Interesting, Mike.
Talking about Swift Bricks, any luck with housing developers in the city?
So I did, as part of my wildlife awareness training and encouraging people in the council to be doing the right thing, I've been talking with our property services teams. It's very difficult at the council, I'm finding, because there's so many people that work at the council, and finding the right person to speak to. However, I have delivered a talk to someone quite high up and his team, in terms of making sure that wherever we possibly can retrofit nesting opportunities for birds, that we do so. In terms of planning, in terms of sort of the new developments, that will be a planning policy piece of work, which is on my list of things to do. So that's very much a sort of a development control, talking to the planners and getting policy changed, but that's on the list. That's part of our green infrastructure strategy and our biodiversity strategy, is to get the right planning policy wording in place. But I mean, obviously developers have got to provide, well, in terms of the biodiversity net gain, that's habitats only. That's not to do with species. But yeah, it's on my list of actions.
Right. Okay, any other questions or comments from people?
I've Swift boxes on my house and no swifts have ever been natural swift nesting all the time. Is there any way that we can stop people repairing their houses and blocking them up? Oh, gosh, yes, if only. I mean, I think it's a case of raising awareness again. Another project on my list is to make sure that the Southampton Council website has got a dedicated page that people can go to for advice on how to improve their, you know, house or their garden, for wildlife, little things that people can do, how they can get involved in conservation work, volunteering, and that's work in progress. It shouldn't take too long to do, actually. It'll be, you know, it'll be developed over time. but I think it's that's the sort of thing that we can put on the website and say, you know, just by putting Swift boxes up, you can, you know, obviously improve the city for Swifts. I think when I've spoken to the Swift Society in the past, they've said that if you've had your Swift box up for sort of a couple of years and Swifts haven't shown any interest, you can get a call system. Because it might be that your house isn't near a Swift colony. Although you've said that in your neighbourhood, not that there's Swifts in the neighbourhood, but natural holes are being blocked up. Yeah, it's an awareness raising thing again, isn't it? It's just getting the word out. And obviously, if people want to know about Swifts, they need to know where to look on the website. Whereas if we create this page that's specifically to do with, I don't know, I haven't come up with a title yet, but it'll be something like greening the city, and people just press on that link and it takes them to various other websites where they can get more information and how they can get, you know, how they can get involved. I have a hedgehog house. There are no hedgehogs. I can't explain why, why you wouldn't. Have you tried putting nesting material in the hedgehog box and providing food for it? What is the SCC portal web page in the Ecology City? It's work in progress. It's not there yet. It's another thing on my list that I'm going to be working on. I've recently been in contact with our communications department, so it's in its early stages, but it's definitely going to be coming. And I can send, you know, Southampton Natural History Society the link. I can shout about it once it's done.
But in the meantime, if you go to the Southampton City Council website, southampton.gov.uk /Our Green City, that's with hyphens, our-green-city.
Yes.
That'll take you to the strategy papers and you know, the roadmap to various things. But on that, it's got the green infrastructure strategy and the biodiversity strategy.
I'm just putting, I'm just going to put those links in. Hopefully those work.
Yeah.
And then the green city one. Oh, Our Green City. Yeah, there it is. Let me just put that in as well. Yeah, but yeah, in terms of sort of, you know, the specifics that people can do, I mean, I know that we've got our various, you know, there's the Southampton Natural History Society website, and there's Hampshire Swift's website, and the Hampshire and Isle of Wight Wildlife Trust. There's so many different websites that people can go to, but I just thought it'd be great to have this sort of, you know, this one page that people can land on, and it's like, okay, well, what can I do in Southampton at a local level? What can I do? And you know, where can I go for further information? So I think once we've got that done, I can promote it so people are aware of it.
Great. Okay, I think that's all the questions and comments done. So it just remains for me to say thank you very much, Sam, for that. I'm sure
you're welcome.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'll do some sharing of the chat and bits and bobs, so that you can respond directly to people that have made some comments.
Yes, that's fine. Yeah.
And just remind to everyone else to have a squint back at the email advertising this event. for an early notice of future events coming up, but there will be emails coming around to you to remind you again in due course. I think probably Sam, the other thing you need to do is to find someone, not just within the officer structure, but you need to find one of the politicians on the council who's going to be a champion for wildlife, a wildlife champion,
Yes.
who will then be
Yes.
able to sort of drive some of this stuff forward.
Well,
Like you lot, like the officers, the councillors are busy people as well, and they've got different priorities. But
I
I'm
know,
sure,
but they're the ones in power though, Mike, as well, aren't
Yeah.
they, in a
Mm.
council?
but yeah, and they're the ones who make the final decisions. So I'm
Ex-
sure amongst them you'll be able to find a wildlife champion who can help take some of this forward.
Tony Bunday's brilliant. He's very, very, really, really active. I think Councillor John Savage is now councillor for the environment.
Right.
It's Councillor Keogh, but he's got so many different projects. I think he's so busy. So it's Councillor John Savage. Yeah, you're right. I try my hardest, but I'm just one person.
Yeah, but one person can change the world. We all know that.
I hope so. Yeah, there's time yet.
Great. Okay. Thanks, everyone. I think that's
Okay.
it for the time being. And good luck with all your wildlife hunting. We'll talk again soon.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.